So we'll start with a couple of questions, and do feel free to participate in answering those questions as you go. Quick introduction for Univ.AI, just as I said, that it's a live online institution for AI and data science. And the reason we created it was to provide a high-end alternative to a university like MIT, where I was fortunate to attend, and Harvard, where some of my sort of co-founders are from, and to create an opportunity like that for folks who are either unable to go and physically attend an institution like that, or get into very few number of positions that are actually available, not to mention the astronomically high cost of doing that. We think that that quality of training and the opportunities associated with it can be brought to the universe at a fraction of the price while not compromising with anything else, and that's the purpose for the existence of Univ.AI. All right, so a couple of sort of curiosity questions. And pay attention, because I think in the next 5 or 6 questions, we'll frame the universe of data science and AI as it relates to employment and jobs, right? So machine learning is a rising force in AI. And I think it'd be an interesting thing to start with saying, and jobs will go. Jobs always go when big tech comes in, right? So what do you think machine learning will do? And to give you a hint, like what machine learning can do is essentially at a minimum replace a lot of simple tasks where human beings need to decide. So to give you a very, very simple one, security guards, right? So if you have cameras which can detect and alert, you don't, in a large industrial complex where industrial security is very important, you don't need a very large security force to manage that security. So that's a very simple example. And then you can go on from there. So what's an estimate for the number of jobs we think will be replaced by machine learning in another 3 to 4 years? The estimates actually run at 85 million. And it might actually be worse than that, right? And it's because I think the moment you are able to have machines take certain basic elementary decisions, even say something like fill forms, a lot of things just simply disappear, right? Where there is human intervention today. And you're already seeing that in areas like, for example, fintech, neobanks. Neobanks don't have people, right? Whereas banks have literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of employees. Take a bank like SBI. What do we think is the number of machine learning engineers needed worldwide by 2025? And it's a very interesting question, because I think most of you are not aware of how many real machine learning jobs are out there in the world, because they're not easily visible. And there's a reason why it's not easily visible. But I'd love to see what are the estimates that you guys have. The number is humongous. It is estimated by a bunch of people, including one prominent study by Tencent, to be around 1.5 million. And that, by the way, for a very high-end job, is a lot of jobs. So let's go to the next one. So I think a real data scientist probably makes, and we'll make a distinction between what is a real data scientist, probably makes closer to about 20. And there's a reason for that too. I think data scientists do a wide variety of things. And one of those things is coding and programming. And therefore, typically, they tend to earn more than their programming counterparts, sometimes twice or thrice as much. But that obviously depends on your experience, right? And so this idea that such a highly compensated job can somehow be had in droves and large numbers with elementary training is slightly misleading. So here's a little data point, right? At a company like Microsoft or Adobe, or pick any other multinational company, somebody with 3 to 5 years of experience as a data scientist actually earns close to ₹1 crore, right? And it's we're talking about money not because all that is important, but it's an indicator of sort of the demand for talent and the supply for talent, right? And usually demand persists and supply constraints persist because it is not all that easy to train to become a sort of, highly skilled, talented, and effective data scientist. So point being that, yes, demand's super high, The jobs are not easily published simply because talent is unavailable in large numbers, the numbers that are necessary. And therefore, they're not advertised a lot either. When slowly talent starts to become more plentiful, you will start to see a lot of these jobs published. So typically, a lot of these jobs go through internal referrals and through word of mouth, right? So when you step out of India to another country, then the scene suddenly changes because the talent supply there is much more than, for example, in India. So obviously, you can't turn your head if you're watching a lot of mobile phone screens, you will see that practically everyone offers some program in data science, right? Do you have any kind of estimate on what graduates on average from programs like that earn? And these are all published numbers, right? Like if you look at any sort of very popular data science program, they'll typically on their homepage tell you what is the comp of their average graduate. So this is a published number on a prominent data science website, and a program, the website of a data science program, right? And it's a very curious question, because where the average in the profession is close to 20 lakhs. And like, for example, in our program, our first cohort is just graduating. Their averages are closer to 30 lakhs. What does it mean when an average graduate from a program is earning 7 lakhs? And there is a high CTC also of 20 LPA, right? It just simply means that that for whatever reason, the training is leading to jobs which are probably data analyst jobs, or sort of, what do you call it? Early stage, say, data wrangling, data management jobs. So I think there is a big kind of disconnect between hordes of programs advertising the fact that you can very easily become a data scientist and then suddenly start having a spectacular career. Both of them obviously possible, just not easily. Other than the easy part, everything else is true, right? So here is a last interesting statistic, and I'm using salaries as a proxy for something. So so what is the average salary you think of a Google DeepMind engineer? And I'm trying to track salary so that you understand something about data science. So yeah, so I'm quite pleased that you have estimates like this, but we should have given you, well, maybe you could have looked it up. So I'm surprised that a lot of you got this number, close to right, and even overestimated it, right? But this is not the kicker. The kicker is how many engineers Google DeepMind has, and let's see that, right? So it's 500 plus. It's almost close to 1,000. So what does it mean when 1,000 people are earning salaries like that, right? It clearly does not mean that suddenly 25, 30-year-olds are doing the kind of work that makes them deserve $1 million straight out of college. It just means that this talent is very sought after. It's difficult to train for, and that there are very few people with the kind of skills necessary. So I think, now I hope everyone can see me. So the point here that I'm trying to make again and again is that through this little circuitous journey, I hope all of you got an idea of 2 or 3 things: that data science is a rewarding career. Data science is clearly a highly compensated career, even at the get-go, to the point that compensation starts to look absurd. The reason it looks absurd is because from the low end to the high end, these jobs are in extreme high demand and with very low ability for the world to actually supply this talent at scale. Why is it difficult to supply at scale? Very simple. Like all advanced disciplines, it takes time, effort, and experience to master it. And therefore, something like this isn't gonna happen overnight, right? That said, it's a really fantastic field, right? And it gives a very high and wide variety of people, highly diverse set of people, an opportunity that they would have never had before, right? For example, if you were going to be a high-end physicist, very, very hard, and you'd have to have very rigorous training to be able to get there. Data science and AI, interestingly, are not like that. It is very easily the most sought after career of this century. So let's find out a little more about it. So today we are here to talk about what we are doing, which is jobs and top-tier data science jobs. And while we run a training program, we also run a consulting company. And in this consulting company, what we do is we work with clients around the world, and we do very interesting data science projects, right, and AI projects. And we are growing, and therefore, in addition to teaching, which happens with teaching assistants and professors, we also hire, right? So very interestingly, in addressing the supply-demand question, we are in some ways answering it ourselves. We're saying that we're willing to hire very high potential, very bright candidates with no prior experience in data science and give them jobs first just based on potential alone, right? Happens all the time. So for example, I mean, I was fortunate to go to an IIT, IIT Roorkee, for those of you who know. And I don't think we got great jobs out of school simply because because we knew a lot. Quite the contrary, I think most people didn't know anything at all. And even today on all the urban college campuses, the IITs, the RECs, it happens. People show up day 1, day 2, day 3, and they get fantastic jobs based straight on potential. So we're trying to do something like that. We're taking a bet on the fact that that people with potential can get into data science jobs. So no, this sounds ridiculous, but it is not. And why is it not ridiculous? There's another reason, right? That data scientists come from a diversity of backgrounds. Yeah. In fact, the more diverse their background is, the more well-equipped they are to be data scientists. And why is that? So just look at a very small sample of the kind of stuff that is done using data science and AI, right? So manufacturing lines, objects are going through, there's a camera, you're looking at images, and you're able to tell whether there are defects or not, something that would take multiple human beings to do. Self-driving, all of you know. Fleet management, right? Who is renting cars, who's driving it, which vehicle is going where, which is loading, what is unloading, right? Drug discovery, what's a new antibiotic candidate? Oil and gas exploration, where should we drill for oil or gas next? You know, if you're able to solve that problem, you save the industry millions of dollars, billions of dollars actually. Diagnosis, do you have a serious disease or you don't? Protein folding, a lot of you would have heard about DeepMind's, we talked about DeepMind a second ago, about DeepMind's AlphaFold. AlphaFold has taken a swipe at solving one of the most difficult problems of all time, that given a composition, a chemical formula for a protein, what will be its physical structure? If you're able to predict the physical structure of a protein, then you can tell what it will do in your body. And so knowing the shape of a protein is the key to be able to predict what kind of drugs and therapeutics, what kind of effect they will have once they are made, right? It cuts the process of therapeutics, treatment, new drug discovery by years. So therefore revolutionary and transformative, right? Now, if I were to ask you a question, if you are a data science engineer and you were supposed to write a data science algorithm, an AI algorithm for fleet management, how would you do it without knowing anything about fleet management or about proteins and medicine and microbiology, or about drugs or about oil and gas? So clearly, to be able to solve a problem, requires you to know about the problem, right? To understand that problem, to have some expertise in domain, right? So that's the other thing, that not knowing data science does not handicap you from having other expertise. So the other expertise or other knowledge and other interest in other forms of very high potential are a great place to start becoming a data scientist. In fact, for an applied data scientist, as opposed to a theoretical data scientist who are advancing the frontiers of data science, it is probably better to come from another domain so that you can become a highly effective problem solver. And that is why we want to hire people that from a wide variety of disciplines and prior experiences who then we can train. So that said, it's a unique program. We, for a select few who have such backgrounds, we'll make them job offers, cutting edge, top tier job offers, and then they will work with outstanding clients and client projects throughout the world, right? So I've already told you about the consulting arm of Univ.AI, so not more to tell, but just a sampling of little things that we have done and continue to do. So for example, one of the things that we are doing, which is very revolutionary, is trying to understand semantics in contracts. That how is a contract written? Can a computer, given a purpose, write a contract automatically? Or can you read a contract and look at how it is being enforced? A couple of other things. So insurance, health insurance, and medicine is a really popular field for application of AI. So we are doing something in that area. We're also doing stuff in oil and gas exploration. We're doing a bunch of other things. We just thought we'd mention these three, right? Go on.
We'll play a short video that will explain the DSLP program, and then we'll continue.
What if, as a data science aspirant, you could first get a top job in data science and then train to be a data scientist? Well, I'm here to tell you about our Data Science Leaders program that lets you do exactly that. My name is Siddharth Das, and I'm co-founder and CEO of Univ.AI, a premier institution for data science and artificial intelligence founded by professors from Harvard University and UCLA. As a candidate to our Data Science Leaders program, your application will be evaluated by an eminent jury, and the best candidates will be offered absolute cutting-edge jobs in data science and AI at industry-leading salaries. Then you will train to be a data scientist on a full scholarship with Univ.AI. Once you're done training, you will join our crack team of data science and AI professionals to work on state-of-the-art projects with our clients worldwide. So who can apply? Well, you need to have a STEM background, and you can be either a student in your final year of college or a working professional. However, you will need to have a strong track record of demonstrable accomplishment. The application itself is fairly straightforward. There's a detailed questionnaire that you need to fill out, take a test, and shortlisted candidates will be invited for interviews with our eminent jury. And then offers will be made to those who meet our criteria. Understandably, the number of offers are limited, and so we urge you to apply fast because applications will be evaluated first come, first serve. If you're committed to being a data scientist at the top of your craft, then we invite your application.
So I guess we kind of repeated everything in the video that I've just said. So I guess a good summary. So quickly about the application, it's an interesting process. We in our regular program first train you, then promise you a job. Here we promise you a job, then train you. Just the opposite, right? And there's a reason why we're doing this. But let me first go through the process with you, and then tell you why we're doing this, right? So the first is, you just saw the process. So we screen you for a variety of things. So clearly, as you realize that students can apply and so can working professionals. For students, we watch for great academic potential, very demonstrated sort of, an academic record. Obviously, grades are a little important, but not all encompassing. A great substitute for great grades is if you've done, fantastic internships, if you've done some work in the domain, if you've shown sort of very high initiative and problem-solving skills, right? So as a student, those are the things that you'd be looking for. As a working professional, we'll of course look at your academic record also, but we'll also look for your track record. So where you work, what kind of work you do. We're particularly interested in very good software engineers, right? So software engineering is particularly full stack engineering, and work with sort of data engineering is particularly effective for data scientists and AI engineers to do well in their professional jobs later on. So we'll look for that, but we will also look for, like I said, expertise in particular domains. If you work in unusual areas, if you've solved unusual problems, those are very interesting to us. So people who have some familiarity with computer science coding and who are working in pharmaceuticals, for example, or working in sort of, drug development, or any of the fields that we outlined, and then more that we haven't talked about, right? Construction industry. So we are constantly interested in different kinds of problem-solving experiences that you have, which will lead you to become a very interesting data scientist, right? So we want to pick up people like that, hire them, and then put them through the same program that we typically offer to our master program candidates, and with some differences, right? Obviously, we're trying to get you to an expert level in a particular area, so we tweak the program a little bit, but it's largely that sort of 9-10 month program that you will go through before being assigned to projects, right? And we've already talked about the project, so I won't repeat that. But fundamentally, it means that you work for us, yeah. And there is fine print. If you don't want to work for us at the end, you're obviously free to do what you want to do. And those are terms and conditions. Those of you who are actually invited for interviews, we'll discuss them with selected candidates. So just to emphasize again, prior experience in data science is not required. Great backgrounds, welcome. Excellent student records, especially with extracurricular, co-curricular experiences in problem solving. Welcome. Working professionals with experiences in diversified domains, not welcome. And we particularly value a good coding background. That does not necessarily mean, however, that you're a software developer, right? You could be in a different domain and just be proficient at writing software, right? And it helps a lot in becoming, because data science ultimately is implemented using code. So I think it helps. Have mentioned this earlier: superior academic track record, exceptional performance at the workplace, go on. So quickly, let me tell you why we created this. I've already told this during our session so far, but let me just repeat that that through our programs we attract a certain kind of candidate, and for our consulting sort of enterprise, we are looking for much more diversity, much more experiences in different domains. So I think we decided that by doing this, we'll be able to look for much more diverse talent, which would otherwise not be obvious because through our regular sort of screening process or our regular reach to people, and that therefore ultimately the finished professional that goes out will also have great diversity and will ultimately have an excellent talent pool. So that's kind of the purpose for doing this. So I've already told us this, that we typically hire from our own graduates because we know their quality, they're exceptionally good. And but we are trying to expand it to everybody else also, and therefore this offers. So let's talk a little bit about how we train. It's important only because if you are going through the program, you should know what happens, right? So a little bit about Univ.AI, probably important to know since we are the institution that a division of which some of you will be joining. And so because it's co-founded by 2 Harvard people, it's closely modeled on the Harvard graduate program. And in fact, Pavlos Protopapas, who's kind of our chief of academic affairs and co-founder, is actually Harvard University's sort of coordinator for their master's program in data science and AI. So in some sense, our programs are a replica of Harvard's programs. By the way, so one of the distinguishing things at Univ.AI is that it is completely live. It's like being in a real classroom, right? And not only is it completely live, which I guess is confining for a lot of people, especially if they're doing it part-time, because it's a part-time program. But at the same time, liveness does certain things that asynchronous programs don't. And one of the things that it does, it provides you super high intervention. So let's go.
I'm trying to balance my training set, but by creating this gun, I create other biases, right?
If you think about how, as humans, we tend to learn stuff, think about a visual cortex, right?
What you're really doing is you're combining the physical model of the process with some sort of data-driven model of inference.
There will be some zeros and some non-zeros. Whenever there is zero, those variables are conditionally independent. The dependency graph is exactly given by the...
Welcome to Univ.AI, a premier, fully live online institution for AI and data science. At Univ.AI, we recreate the exceptional learning environment and rigor of the world's most renowned institutions like Harvard and MIT. And we do absolutely everything live. You attend live classes with our founding faculty, who are professors at Harvard and UCLA, and with other leading faculty from around the world. However, unlike at even the world's top institutions, at Univ.AI, you work in an intensively mentored environment with 8 to 10 hours of live mentoring every week. It's this extraordinary mentorship that makes a decisive difference in training to be a top data scientist. Curriculum innovations from top faculty emphasize interactive learning and are at the heart of the Univ.AI system. Learning consists of 6 main elements: live lectures, labs, homework, office hours, online help, and projects. A typical course at Univ.AI is 5 weeks long, with 4 weeks of teaching and 1 week for a hands-on project. Certificate programs at Univ.AI consist of a series of such 5 to 6 week courses. Lectures at Univ.AI are different. Professors teach in 20 to 30-minute segments, and immediately afterward, you get into breakout sessions with your teaching assistants to work on short in-class exercises to explore the concepts you've just learned.
Basically, you have beta 0 is equal to 0.
And I can think about this as continuous, or I can think about it as discrete, like on a scale of, say, 1 to 256, right? As my color value.
A complete class consists of a series of alternating lecture segments and exercises. After the classes come labs. In a lab, you work in your study group under the mentorship of a teaching assistant to solve an extended problem.
You're making multiple samples out of it, and you're basically doing your validation in that.
Why might you want to generate these random numbers? Because there are lots of different things you can do with it.
After classes and labs, you're assigned homework on which you work with your study group. Rigorous homework tests your learning. Every week, there are office hours during which you can address any questions you might have.
Now, if you see, the collinearity effects happened for low alpha values.
Model with good perplexity will behave nicely and will give you better results.
At all other times, you can post your questions on the course discussion forum for your colleagues and TAs to help you out. Now comes the part of the program that takes you from being excellent to exceptional. In the final week of every course, you work on a project. This is where you build real-world problem-solving and application skills.
In our quest to build a good chatbot, we decided to try using different datasets, as many models as we could within a week for better understanding.
You learn to make choices and trade-offs, and you make decisive progress toward becoming a master of your craft. You go through this experience several times in the course of a program. By the time you're done, you will be one of the most skilled AI and data science professionals in the world.
All right, so back to the PPT. We should really wrap up and get to your questions, but we'll quickly answer 2 questions, right? And we probably have answered some of it already. How do I get into DSLP? I guess I've already answered that question. Yeah, so I think the next question, and do ask me detailed questions later on and we'll be happy to answer them. The other one is, what happens if you're not chosen? The numbers are very small, but you'll see some interesting statistics about the applications to DSLP so far. So let's go on. We've talked about this, so I'm now going to repeat it, that you apply. In the application, it's a fairly detailed application. Many of you might already have applied, so you already know. We ask a lot of questions. Then there's a test, which is scored out of 100, depending on a first round screening of your test score. We invite you for an interview. Interview will be both qualitative and maybe we'll ask some technical questions. And based on that, we take a final decision and make you an offer. The offer will typically have a compensation of somewhere between 15 and 35 lakhs. It will probably depend on what incoming background you have, whether you have some experience, in a domain or software like that, right? And it's indicative. The offer might actually be more. Some of you might truly be exceptional, in which case we make you a commensurate offer. And and it might, in certain cases, be unlikely, but might even be less than the 15 lakh floor. But mostly the indicative range is 15 to 35, right? And the interesting thing to note is that you train after that, and all of this is on us, obviously, costs you nothing. During the training, you can continue doing whatever you're doing. And that is why we are asking people who are in their final year of college to apply. You've got 1 year to go, more or less. And during that time, once you're selected, you will have a job, plus you will get to train for it, right? And some terms and conditions, right? So for example, if you accept candidature into this program, you're not allowed to drop out. This is a highly coveted program. So if you drop out, you can do badly, which is all right, but you have to perform the minimum sort of things that are required of the program, which is attend, like in a college, there's a minimum attendance requirement because lots of stuff happens in the training and you're required to keep a grade point average, right? And if you do that, then, at the end, you come out and be truly one of the world's most coveted data scientists. And once you start working on our projects, your kind of market value, market exposure starts rising rapidly. I should tell you a story. Like just this morning, somebody I know who graduated from IIT Kharagpur, until like 3 days ago, had a $100,000 software job in the United States, and just messaged me this morning that they got a job at LinkedIn as a machine learning engineer that pays them $275,000 US. So that person was as stunned as I was to look at their change of pay, right? So once you start working in that field in the right set of employment circumstances, that's what's going to happen to your value. But the second question that we want to answer is, what happens if you don't get it? And I think it depends on your application. But let's go on, right? There's some score benchmarks we use. So I think first is that we use, while we use the test as some kind of a as a guideline. So these are not hard. We constantly look at your application. But there are some numbers where low means low, like below 50 here is low. Yeah, that means you're simply not prepared. Okay. For if you got 50 to 75, you probably have the right set of background that is necessary, but you probably need a little bit of work, right, to catch up, to refresh. So then 75 to 90, I think your preparation looks good, and this is the group of candidate that is most likely to be invited to interview with us, right? 50 to 75, maybe some, but probably not a lot, right? And above 90, I think, at least your preparation is rock solid. And if you have a very high score, plus you have an outstanding background, that's the kind of background you're looking for. And I think we will, then be happy to welcome you onto our staff. Go on. So I think the point we're making here is that all of you are invited into the program. We undergo the same training that we give our other students. But what happens if you have these scores? So 49 or below, I think I'd say go back, learn a bit of Python, brush up on maths and statistics, do some Coursera courses, gather some experience. If you want a serious shot at having a great data science career, right? So I think people with that kind of score are not even ready to do an online data science course from anywhere. So I think I'd focus on doing that. Yeah. So great opportunity to take the test and take our sort of entrance process and assess where you are in your kind of learning journey, right? 50 to 75, you're potentially eligible for our master program and our other certificate programs. Check with us. If you're not offered the data science leaders program, you could be eligible, but that needs a little more detailed evaluation. It's the learning program that we offer has, so go through the website. There are some really interesting systems available. There's a system to learn with us with no fee upfront. Many of you might know about income sharing agreements. So you can learn with us, you can get a guaranteed top-tier data science job, pretty much the same as DSLP, but after we know that you are outstanding, right? And not prior. And you have a chance to do that. But it's not an outright decision, probably needs a round of evaluation. So tell us if you're interested, right? Those who are in the high-end bracket and who are likely to be invited for interviews, or even if you're not invited for interviews, we'll offer you a chance to direct chance to, without taking the other entrance examination and application, to take any of our programs. We don't know though, it depends on the rest of your background, if we can offer you an income sharing agreement. If you're in the 90 and above category and have a great background, I think you will be offered an admission with zero upfront tuition fees, right? And we'll just have to confirm if you'd actually like to go through the program and then avail of a job later on, right? So the point here to be made is that if we don't invite you, we'll let you know your score, and once you do, or at least we'll let you know your range. It'll indicate where you stand in your preparation, and if you're in the advanced stages of preparation, that if not in the DSLP, you can still go through and get at very little sort of investment and risk, other than investment of time and effort, get to an outstanding data science career. So we are in the business of ensuring that people who have the right preparation, the right level of interest, the right motivation and dedication actually make fantastic careers. And we're figuring out ways and means to do that, not just in India, but around the world, right? By the way, we're launching in the United States later this year, in fact, right after September. So you will be part of an international cohort very soon. There is something else also. We have something called the Jeff Hinton Fellowship. So those of you who don't look up Jeff Hinton's widely known as the godfather of data science and AI. He is to data science as Einstein is to physics. And we have something called the Jeff Hinton Fellowship that was inaugurated by Jeff Hinton himself. And it's a community of data science and AI enthusiasts and professionals. Right now, it stands at about 6,000 members. It does a bunch of things. We do mentored learning, which is a series of workshops that gets you through your early data science learning series, right? So those of you who are, for example, in the 40 to 75 range and don't have any prior experience with sort of data science, probably want to start with workshops like this and Coursera courses to get up and running on your data science background, right? We are also going to do live classes like we do at Univ.AI, except not in the same way, not this very high intervention, sort of Harvard classroom style. But we're going to offer a cousin of Univ.AI's programs absolutely free at the Jeff Hinton Fellowship. So the idea is that we allow you a community and platform to get together with small cohorts and learn. We run beginner level hackathons, so not like the ones on Kaggle. We run these hackathons so that we constantly measure your progress and development. You also measure your progress and development. And based on that, we ask industry to come and offer you internships and jobs. So particularly good for people who are in the early stage of their university career, right? If you're still a student in your first, second, third year, you can, through this system, start learning data science, prove to the world that you're a good data scientist, and start getting internships and get on a career path, very, very early. So this is an opportunity, no cost, and an investment that you can choose to make at your own pace, at your own leisure, right? So look it up, and I think this can be fantastic for people who are very early in their sort of learning stages. Go ahead. We built frameworks that can learn to recognize, predict, and even learn to create, for example, GPT-3. What are we still missing to get to general intelligence or artificial general intelligence?
I think artificial general intelligence is a long way off. I disagree with a lot of it. I disagree with Demis Hassabis and Ilya Sutskever. They think AGI is much closer than I think it is. They think it's maybe coming in the next 10 or 15 years, and I think it's going to be 50 years away.
All right. So that was Hinton talking to me during the inauguration of the Hinton Fellowship. But a very interesting point he made, that it may be half a century or a century before computers emulate human beings. But that's not the point at all. I think the point is this. that what did the Industrial Revolution do? It took a particular physical skill of ours, like for example, lifting or tightening a bolt, and did that way faster and way better than we did, right? A very specific task. Industrial robot cannot do more than one task or two tasks, but it does phenomenally well and at very high throughput and productivity. So AI is going to do that for the human mind. Take specific tasks, like for example, looking at radiological images and saying whether there's a disease or not, faster and better than us, right? But that doesn't mean that a computer can become a human being, and there is no need. It is just a tool. But as tools go, it's a very, very, very exciting tool. And for those of you who have, let me repeat again, diverse interests, diversity of background, and an appetite to work on very interesting problems, I don't think that the world will offer you a better career in this lifetime than being a cutting edge AI scientist or engineer, right? And it brings together many aspects of thought, problem solving, success, just absolute success, wealth creation, that probably doesn't happen or isn't going to happen in the foreseeable future for any other profession in such large numbers, millions of people that we can see on the horizon, right? So that's, I think, unless we have something else coming, I think that's pretty much it. And we should tell you what's happened so far. So platform went live about a week ago, and go on. So we have about 3,000 applications right now. So exactly one person scored 100% in the test. About 1%, slightly less than 1% have scored more than 90%, which is actually quite impressive. And they're fantastic applications too. This is what the score distribution looks like. The vast majority, as you can see, have some ways to go, but there is a bunch of very interesting candidates, right? We've got quite a few candidates in the high score range, and so many of you will be hearing from us soon, right? But the point here is that time still left. Those of you who feel qualified to apply, do that. It's a bit of a pain, I know. There's a test, there's a long application, but do that. I think this is, so through the process, this is not the only thing that you qualify for. We're not at liberty to announce other things, but I think your backgrounds will stay with us. And as we make, like for example, if we open up the DSLP again, those of you who are not offered this time will maybe in a quarter or so again become candidates, automatically candidates, and you don't have to reapply, right? So that's another reason why you probably want to apply right now, or you might want to prepare and apply again in the next edition of DSLP, right? But do that. There are some dates here. There's an application deadline, and on September 5th. If any of you are interested in our regular programs, September 11th is the deadline, and the training starts September 19th. So these are important dates to know. Yeah. So I think this is it. We look forward to having some of you with us, and some of you perhaps learn with us without being in the DSLP. And either ways, we are thrilled. I think we are in the early stages of creating a data science and AI university with the world's top professors and a consulting organization that does absolutely top-notch work. And I think whether you are in the consulting organization or with us at the university, it's going to be an outstanding experience. By the way, at Univ.AI, we let people work on research with the professors. So for example, our existing students right now are working in Harvard labs without actually being Harvard students. They're part of the Harvard research groups and the UCLA research groups. So those of you who are academically inclined and have high qualifications, you can sort of ask our folks here, actually write to hello@univ.ai about research as well. And we might be able to accommodate some of you with exceptional programs directly in our research initiatives. So that's it, and super happy now to answer questions.